Hello, I'm Marcus Railton, and welcome back to the second series of the ScotsCare podcast. ScotsCare is the only charity dedicated to helping disadvantaged Scots in London through a range of support, including financial grants, advocacy, counselling and sheltered housing for older Scots, job coaching, social events, befriending, and support for children and families. The charity's been running for 400 years to help break the cycle of poverty experienced by some Scots. In the new series, I'll be chatting with guests from all walks of life, from celebrities and authors, athletes and actors, business entrepreneurs to academics, all with one thing in common: Scots heritage, and they enjoy a good blether. On the podcast this week, I'm joined by one of the hardest working actors in the UK today. She is Sharon Small, and she's brilliant. Her TV credits include The Gritty London Kills, The Bay, The Accidental Medium, Trust Me, Midsummer Murders, Downton Abbey, Law and Order UK, Death in Paradise. And while she's not on the telly box, you'll probably find her on a West End stage somewhere. This was a genuinely fascinating chat. We actually discovered that we grew up right beside each other, and being the same age, we probably met each other at one point when we were kids. She spoke about how she discovered her passion for acting, how difficult COVID was for her and her other half, and we both chatted about what it's like bringing up teenagers in the 21st century. Really interestingly, she chatted about working with the very cool David Tennant, and how working alongside great talent brings the best out in you. She is just a lovely person. I think I may have a crush on her. So here on the ScotsCare podcast is the wonderful, did I say she was wonderful? Sharon Small.
Hey.
Hello. Do you know what, we were going to do this at noon, and then you said, I've got something to do, can we make it at 12:30? And it was kind of fortuitous, because then I started chatting to my friend Ben, who's a cameraman, and I said, you don't know Sharon Small, do you? And he went, oh yeah, I worked on Mistresses. So Ben worked on
goodness, you're going to somebody on me and then I wouldn't remember him without seeing his face.
No, but he'd have been quite young, because I think Ben's only 40 now, and then I looked up Mistresses, and that was like 2008, wasn't it?
Do you know what? It was 2007 that we actually recorded it. So it went out 2008 because my son, who's about to have his 17th birthday, had his first birthday whilst we were filming. One of my sons.
Yeah, these kind of things freak me out when you remember that, or it pops up on your iPhone. Here's a photo that reminds you of that day.
Yeah.
Wow, they were still in nappies or something like that. And so Ben worked on Mistresses, Ben Robinson, a long time ago, and then he says, "Oh yeah, my wife, Bella Robinson, she worked on Inspector Lynley. I think she's a second AD. I think she might not have been at that point, but it's a small world."
It is, but also if you're around long enough and still hanging on there with your fingertips, then there's a good chance you'll keep meeting everyone in the rounds, and I'll watch them come from the bottom up and enjoy their journey as I career back down.
See, when I was doing some research on you, I read two places. It says you were born in Drumchapel, but then it says, did you move to Fife or? Because then it said...
Yeah, so I was born in Drumchapel in Stogville Hospital, and we stayed in Glasgow and around. So I lived in Drumchapel for about a year and a half, and then we moved to Manchester for about a year. You know what it was like. It was sort of late 60s, early 70s, so people went wherever the work was. And then we came back, and I lived just next to John Brown's shipyard on Glasgow Road. I don't know if you remember that at all.
What, is it in Clydebank?
Yeah, I stayed in Clydebank, and I stayed in one of the tenements, and we used to play out the back. But they were to be demolished, so we were one of the last families to move, and then we moved to Linvale.
To Linvale, really?
1977. That's when we went to Fife.
Oh, because I was brought up
in stomping grounds of yours then.
No, well, I was brought up in Clydebank, just the other side of the Drumchapel roundabout on Drumrye Road. And, we used to hang about Linvale all the time. And my mum worked in John Brown shipyards, and then John Brown shut, and that was terrible for Clydebank. And I think it got taken over by a French company at that point. My mum worked there as well. But Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we did something called marathon. I remember it being the same as the
that's right.
marathon, being the same as the chocolate bar.
That's right. Yeah, that's really strange.
Sorry, I always have this theory. I would love it if I know I don't want to be chipped everywhere, but I would love to just know how many times we've crossed people in our lives. If you look at your sort of digital chip journey, there's so many people that you have circled and never really met, and then suddenly you realize that you have been so close to them in so many ways.
Yeah, it's strange that, isn't it?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I hadn't been back to Clydebank for years, and my dad died during COVID, and I think since my dad passed away, I've been back to Scotland more than ever because I kind of felt as if I'd lost a bit of contact with it. And my kids wanted to see where I went to school, so I took them to where Drumchapel Roundabout is, and I was taking them to where the high school is, Braidfield, and it's not
Oh,
even
that's
there.
on Braidfield. Yeah, I was on. So well, I think I'm older than you, but yes, I would have been on track for that as well.
Yeah, it's gone. It's a housing estate. It's
Oh
just,
my God, is it?
yeah, I couldn't
Marty
believe
Pello
it.
went there, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, he did. It was it school that you got the acting bug? Was it, were you encouraged to do drama in school?
You know what? I used to watch some of the very limited children's television that we had then. I remember there being a drama about these kids who were at a stage school, and I remember saying to my mum, "Can I do that?" And she was like, "Shut what? Golly, go play." And I would ask for all of those things as a kid, but we just didn't have the money. So I asked for dance lessons and all that sort of thing. So it must have been aspirational from tiny. It was something that it was a skill set I wanted to learn, and I knew I was hugely attracted to it, but it didn't seem like an option at all. And so although I was sort of always singing and dancing around, I wasn't like a show off. I just enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? And I was really clumsy. So I was always smashing cups and furniture as I bounced about anywhere. And it was always like, always being sort of told to stop shaking, stop dancing, stop doing that, sit down. So I think I was always on the move and always kind of doing that. But anyway, in answer to your question, I was in physics at the age of 15, and the physics teacher asked us all to go out one by one, and he said, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "I think I want to be an actress." He went, "What are you doing in physics?" I was like, "Well, yeah, because that's what we do in Scotland. We do maths and physics." And then I thought, right, I better actually try and make this thing a reality. So I tried to figure out where to go from there.
And when you were figuring it out in your head, were you thinking, I want to be on the stage, or did you think I want to be a television actress, or was it as focused as that at that young age, at 15 or 16?
A mixture of the two. I think I had no idea how to get there, so I didn't think that television was even in my remit, but I knew that's what my whole learning curve was, television, because that's all I had. I hadn't been to the theatre. And then one night I went to see Wildcat at the Lyceum in Edinburgh, and they did a production of Beggar's Opera where they all picked up instruments, they sang, they acted, and that was a light bulb moment for me. I just went, that's what I want to do. I want to do all of it. And so I figured out where I could get my nearest sort of course for that, and it happened to be at Kirkcaldy Technical College, and I was at Balwearie at the time, which was in Kirkcaldy, as my high school, and so they were actually doing that straight after, and I walked into the Kirkcaldy Tech, the sort of open day, and I watched what they were doing in that course, and that was that. I'm like, that's my next move. So after my hires.
After your hires, yeah, and you still do both. You still do TV, and you still do stage. And I don't know how to phrase this question because neither is easy, but is it a lot more hard work when you have to do the stage and you've got to get up there night after night? And that seems to me more, I don't know whether frightening or more energy consuming than going on set every day.
Partly, I think it depends on your personality, because some people get bored in theatre. They don't like the repetition. But because I'm a perfectionist by nature, I can always find something to think, oh, I didn't get that right last night, I'll try that. And so the job of being on theatre for me was was perfecting and perfecting and perfecting. And I love that as a thing. I love the security of good writing. You don't always get that with television. Do you know what I mean? It's you're there to serve the visual and the engine plot. Whereas in theatre, it's got to be a proven piece to exist on the stage. It's got to be a really good piece of writing. And there's so many amazing writers that you can go on and say their words. So that's a joy, I think, and a privilege to go on and do that, and then to try and you get more scope to do different accents and things like that. But as for the energy level, I think I probably fear it more now, being a bit older. Yeah. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm invincible, and then I think, oh, I think I'm a bit tired at the end of this week, 8 shows a week. But I still love the nature of going on and saying to yourself, this, whatever happens, that's that audience's first time, and you have to make it that. That's your job.
Yeah, it's interesting you said, and if you do it, and then the next night you could maybe think about it and think, oh, do you know what? I could tweak this, or I could do that. And I just wonder, I don't know if you watch your old television stuff. Do you ever watch your old TV stuff and go, I wouldn't do that like that now, or I could have done that differently looking back at it?
Do you know what? I'm very bad at watching myself on television. I literally watch it, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but I literally watch it through sort of spread fingers, and I literally tick and go, right, that was truthful. That was truthful. Oh, I knew, why did they choose that shot? Okay, I remember that take. And so you go through that whole process. And so sometimes you just have so little control over what gets put on the screen. But I remember every detail of the day when I see it. And more as an overview, I just go, did I manage to convey what I was trying to do? And I can relax if I did, and then if I and I tend not to go back to that again. I just hope that it made other people think or happy or moved. Unless sometimes I've gone to look at it with my kids, because they don't want to watch anything. I think, it was only the last couple of years that they've decided to come to theatre now and see me.
And it's easier for you to be, it's almost an obvious question, is it easier for you to be at your best when you're surrounded by good people? And, using the word good, you were in a production of Good with David Tennant. And every time I watch David Tennant in something, aside from his acting, he always strikes me like the real deal. He always strikes me as a phenomenally focused, talented man that would probably make me feel a bit careful. Just in your shadow, I'd be a bit scared by him. But when you're working, did you know him beforehand? And is he inspirational to work with?
Excuse me. So I had worked with David before, actually. I'd done a little short film with him quite a few years ago, and we did a radio play, and we were pals. And then he got Doctor Who, and he just went stratospheric. So we kind of drifted apart over the years. So I hadn't worked with him or even seen him, I think, for maybe about 20 years when we got together for Good. And that was really nice to sort of revisit that. Him now having gone through, the rise that he's had, and he hasn't changed. He's actually very honourable, very lovely, very professional, and just generally, he is actually that nice. So he is that nice and that good a person, and committed. And so I think having met him before, I didn't feel as daunted as I might have had I not met him before. But it was a real pleasure, and he is actually a really nice person.
Yeah, I like that. I like when you hear that, when people have fame for a long time and don't change. I think, it's definitely a strength of character if you can maintain who you are when everybody's, kissing your butt or offering you loads and loads of cash to do something. It is a strength of character there.
Depression and anxiety can strike anyone, with 1 in 4 of us experiencing a mental health problem each year. We can help with counselling sessions and other support that could ease the pressures and give you a non-judgmental place to work through your problems.
I was speaking to an actor, a guy called John Joe O'Neill, and he was in Bloodlands. Do you know? And I remember having this conversation with him, and we'd been to this. It was strange. We'd been to a yoga class together, And I was talking to him about acting, and he was saying how much of it was an escape for him. And he kind of looked at the windows and he went, because out there, I cannot deal with. And for him, he was using that as his kind of other world. Is it an escape for you to get away from cost of living crisis and dodgy governments?
I think maybe at the beginning it was much more like that, because I didn't have a totally easy upbringing. So it was definitely a lovely way of, it's a security. Like I said, sometimes saying someone else's words rather than having to take the word on in your own words is a great help. But I mean, you still have to have huge resilience and know how to be out of work. And that's all the tough bits that come along with that. But what I think I love more about that, not the escape so much as a kid, I wanted to do everything. I thought, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a doctor, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I thought, oh, I can't actually do all of those things. So I realized that through acting, sometimes you can get to be all those things for make-believe without the real consequences if you really get it wrong. And I love the research into the time periods that you go into the different epochs, you go to the different costumes and all that sort of thing. So I find that exhilarating. You know, you turn up to Angels. I don't know if you know, Angels is a very famous costume shop. It's sort of costume sort of studio in London. They've got a few others. And there's racks and racks and racks of old clothes from all the different eras. And you can just go through that and go, oh, wow, I'm getting fitted for Downton Abbey. You're an authentic late 18s, sort of early 20s clothes, or 1950s for Call the Midwife. I love being able to capture those eras if you can. And
you mentioned there about, you know, making a choice to become an actor and getting used to the fact that you may be out of work. And I interviewed a guy called Duncan Powell, and he was in Rogue One, and he's now in Andor. And Duncan said to me when he got the part for Rogue One, he thought, oh, this is it. This is, I'm never going to have to worry again. I'm going to get offered parts. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to have fast cars. And then he was very grounded about it. He says, I don't think I worked for nearly a year. And I think this is bonkers. And is that something as an actor, is that something, did you get used to that? And was there then a tipping point for you where you would go up and you would do an audition and you wouldn't get it, to this tipping point where you would do an audition and you started to get work more regularly?
It depends. So much of it's about timing, Marcus. It's about what's hot, what's in at the moment, and whether you fit. And so if you manage to do a part that then gives you a sort of gateway to doing lots of things, you just don't stop. But if you're someone who, perhaps like Duncan and myself, who are less easily typecast or don't get that massive breakout part, you're on the treadmill. You're a jobbing actor. You are having to fight for every single one. And the lucky bit is if they come back again for a second series, in terms of financially, that really helps. And also it starts to give you a little bit more exposure, and you meet lots of different great directors and good actors on the way. But I think a way to look at it was, sometimes I went through a phase where I'd be saying I was an actor and people go, what bar do you work in? And then it would be like, oh, are you? Okay. Or, and then be friends and family recognizing you'd got on the telly like 8 years later after 5 years of theatre and 3 years of training. And they go, oh yeah, you are. Oh, right, you're an actress. Right, brilliant. And then starting to get noticed outside. And then people going, oh, I know you. Are you such and such? And they're getting it wrong. And then eventually there comes a point they go, you're Sharon Small. Yeah. And that's how I could sort of track that, would be like, oh, I'm becoming recognizable. And then, of course, that changes after a while. You can be like, oh, you're the, I get mistaken for Maxine Peake a lot. And I got Miranda Richardson the other day. So now they know, you're off the telly.
People. Yeah, they're both complimentary people to be compared to, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. The purple patch for an actress usually is in her 30s.
Yeah.
because that's when
Is it getting any better? Is it because, you know, when you look at like Succession and you look at Logan Roy, you know, I mean, he's into his 70s. There's not many actresses out there in the 70s with lead roles like Succession, but is it getting better for female actors?
I mean, I think the conversations is being had, but we're also addressing diversity. We're also addressing lots of different issues and representation everywhere. So that's opening up even more, you know, people in the industry. So we're all in there in the bum fight together, I guess. And so hopefully just the best people will get the job and we will carry on and tell the stories. I still don't think that, I think that we suffer a little bit from, suffer, is that the right word? People quite often don't find older women as attractive as they find older men. And I think appeal is a massive part of acting. And until studio execs decide that there's appeal in that, because there definitely is in terms of when box office hits, they watch them. They're hits, you know, but and until they find the stories strong enough, I don't think we're going to completely break that yet.
Have you done the American thing, the going out to Los Angeles? I think I was watching this film the other night, and Ralph Ineson was in it. And Ralph Ineson, he's the northern actor, and he's got a really deep northern, very distinctive voice. And he was playing this kind of generic American bad guy. And I kind of thought, I wonder why he did that. And I thought, is it because you go out to America and you take what you can get in the hope that it'll lead to something else? Or have you ever done the kind of the rounds of casting in Los Angeles?
So Mistresses had a big, massive launch in the States once. And my second son was only 7 months old and I was still feeding him. And they offered to take us all out there for a big press junket. And so we decided that it would be fine. I would go for this. So I had to go for 2 weeks. And the other girls were able to go and stay out there for a while and do the whole kind of proper press things. But I literally had like 5 days. And it was a case of just getting in a car and taking on the LA freeways, trying to get to studios for like a 10-minute chat with people. So I was never there long enough to get myself an agent or a manager. But also, quite realistically, unless you do something that's really big hit here, it's quite hard to break in unless you're really beautiful. Okay. That cynically, I think.
Yeah. Did you watch that thing, the other Scottish thing? It came out recently. It's called 4-2 or 4-6, the thing with Kevin McKidd in it.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
No, and I was thinking, I knew I'd seen Kevin McKidd in Trainspotting, and then he kind of disappeared off my radar for a million years, and he's been in Grey's Anatomy for...
Yeah, I've been watching him for years.
Yeah, I mean, but he's been in Grey's Anatomy for like 13 years or something crazy like that. I think that must be, in one way, you mentioned like the financial security, but I wonder if after 13 years, it's difficult to break out of that and for people to see you anything apart from hunky Dr. Scotsman or whatever he was called. I don't know.
No, he played American. And again, like I said, he made a really big splash in Trainspotting. Go. Why wouldn't you go and be in, I mean, it was one of the biggest medical series at the time. You know, it had amazing people in it and it was brilliant. So, you know, if it's a time, it's at your age when you're starting to have kids and things like that, it makes sense. You're living the proper LA dream, as they say. But also, I think he did indie films and things in between. So
he's very in this 4-6 or 4-2. He's great in it. Really gritty.
Yeah.
You've got 2 boys. Are they interested in the arts? Would they follow in your footsteps?
I think only the youngest now, who's just turned 15, is kind of slightly looking in this direction. But no, they wouldn't go to little drama classes that I set up or anything. They were absolutely refused, and they've not really been interested in watching any of my back catalogue, and I made them come and see Good, to which I think like I fell asleep. And they came to see another one at the Donmar that I did just before that as well, about climate crisis. And yeah, and then they're a bit like, wow, mum, wow. And so I was like, yes, I've been to it, because I did one called Still Alice, and it was about premature senile dementia, or, Alzheimer's. And they both said, they were much younger. I think they were 12 and 14. They just went, Mum, if it's watching you get ill, I just don't want to see it. I'm really sorry. And I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah.
So, no burning desires. And if they do, then I will completely support them. But I know that you have to absolutely think this is the only thing you can do. I think that's the way you have to be.
Yeah, I think that sometimes Noah, my 14-year-old, he's funny and he's gregarious, but he's quite sensitive, and I just wonder if whether this would not be, the arts may not be for him. I think he might need more stability. Yet my younger boy Rafe, who's 10, he's got a very good eye. He's already, he directs little movies on his iPhone and he cuts them up, and he seems to understand that, and he's more robust that way. He seems to be more single-minded in where he wants to go.
Yeah.
Where I think my older boy probably thinks too much like me and my wife.
Yeah, I think my philosophy is more just like, if they want that, then they'll come to me and ask for the help to do it then, rather than me trying to push them into something that they might not actually be passionate enough about. But in saying that, I did a self-tape. I had to do an emergency self-tape, and I had to ask my youngest to just press the record button and whatever, so that I didn't have to come forward and press, and then it's really awkward. And oh my goodness, did he not start directing me? And I was at first like thinking, oh, stop that directing me. Oh, he was really astute and he was really good. And I thought, okay, that's a skill set that I didn't see coming. So, watch this space. You never know. He was really, really good.
The Soul Tired Donor Club is our monthly giving club. Could you spare a monthly donation of any amount to help homeless and vulnerable Scots? Visit our website to give monthly and join the Soul Tired Donor Club. It couldn't be easier, and it will make a difference to those struggling in London.
If you had to go away, if you were on location, how did you and your partner just split the childcare? But I suppose your boys are more self-sustainable now, but when they were younger, how did you split it?
I was really, really lucky in that Dan, when our second child was born, son, Dan, I had to be in Bristol to film Mistresses, and he said, it's fine, I'll come, because I was going to have to go with a new baby, still feeding, and a just 2-year-old, and take them to Bristol and get a nanny. And he just said, I hate my job, let's go, I'll come with you. And I remember just breathing a sigh of relief. And then he trained in photography, and he didn't really go back to work for quite a while, so he was the primary carer. So that was a time where I had my purple patch, and so I was able to pick up and go and work wherever I needed to go, and Dan would hold the fort here. And then, of course, when I come home, I get all bossy, come back in, and then run the show here. So you get lots of time out of work too, obviously.
Yeah. When COVID came along, most of my work went away. I was, working in the media, and it just kind of never came back. I had to kind of reinvent myself, and that took a bit of time. And just at that point, we had a daughter. My daughter Indy was born in 2018, and so my wife ended up doing more of the kind of, keeping the roof over her head. And sometimes I found it frustrating, but when I look back on it now, I got to spend a lot of great time with the kids. And I think that's what I had to concentrate on, that while I might not have been doing what I wanted to do from a career point of view, it was great to spend that time with my daughter before. Now they're all three of them are at school. So that was great for me.
Yep. Same. Dan and I completely flatlined in COVID. And I was supposed to go and do Primary Miss Jean Brodie at Chichester, and then go on and do more of London Kills. Of course, that all just went away. But what I got from it was I'd never had such concentrated, so it was nearly about 2 years at home, I'd never had such concentrated time with my boys. And it was a beautiful summer, but they were having to homeschool. They were doing year 7 and year 9 curriculums, and my older boy's on the spectrum. So I had to learn all of the year 9 curriculum so that I could differentiate for him. and we could learn it together. And that went on for like nearly 2 years, where they were on and off and out of school. And that was really tricky time for them, to watch them miss out on an awful lot. But I got an insight to them that I hadn't had, I think, being away, being the person who was the one going away the most. And that was really valuable for all of us.
A super tough time for them. I don't think my older boy, from a kind of school perspective, has ever really recovered from that. You can still see it in his writing and his grammar, because he spent so much time not being at school.
Yeah.
And I don't think homeschooling is really I'm 40.
Oh, I know. Well, I took it very, very seriously, because I'm very purposeful. If I've got a purpose, then I will work till my fingers are bleed. But if I don't have a purpose, I'm a bit aimless. I'm not very good, which is why I quite like the discipline of filming or doing a play. It gives me purpose. But so I think I just made them my projects.
Yeah.
So much to their disdain.
Do you still have ambition? Do you have an ambition that people might not say, oh, that's something we thought Sharon Small would do? Would you do, I don't know, would you write a book, do a game show, do a documentary? Would you do something like that?
I would do, yeah, I mean, I think I'm in danger sometimes. I limit myself because I just try to stay sort of in the acting lane. But, and partly because I love acting, so I don't want to leave it.
Yeah.
Partly. And I don't find myself interesting enough to do like a documentary or a game show or, any of those things where you would go on and do any sort of celebrity things. Just go get her out. But I think, COVID made me write something. So I wrote something. I just haven't actually shown it to anyone yet. And the directing, I think I like the best. I like doing that. And I've got a couple of kids into drama school just by doing a few hours work with them, which has been really gosh, I probably should look at that and do that a bit more. Because I like being able to just boost them and give them the nods and the shifts that they need to suddenly just watch this young person just suddenly blossom in front of you with a few kind of good notes.
Well, to have a mentor like you would be amazing for a young person, I would have thought. And you would bring so much experience, having seen stage and screen, and talk about the ups and the downs.
Yes, I probably should use that and do that somehow for people.
Yeah, come on, Sharon, get on it.
I know. Every time I sort of think, right, I'm going to do that, I then end up getting a job, and then I go, oh, okay, well, I've got to go do that. This day, I'm back up to Glasgow. Sorry, bye. So I need to organise myself and be more front-footed.
Oh, well, I will look out for that as a future Sharon Small project. Sharon, thank you for chatting to me today. It's been great. It's been really nice talking to you. And I wish you the best for the future.
Thank you very much. Really nice to meet you.
Daddy, bye. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. All the best.
ScotsCare,